Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you Yoda versus Capkaverne in game 2 out of 2 games in the European Steel Division League Code S. This is St. Merigles, and on the Allied side Yoda is going to be using the 4th Armoured, and on the Axis side Capkaverne is going to be using the Panzer Lehr. The 4th Armoured we've seen many times before, of course their strengths being in Abrams in Phase A, and also of course the Hellcats. We've seen Herr Robert use an infantry strategy accompanied by the off map at the start, and that's something that could definitely take place going into the town. But on the side of the Axis, the Panzer Lehr is definitely a division that you don't see very often in competitive play. It does have some quite strong Phase A units in the 2-star Pumas, but whether or not they are used correctly is entirely based on the player. So that's something we're going to have to look out for. They do have some other nice support units, but the main thing that makes the Panzer Lehr quite difficult to use is their income is incredibly weak in Phase A and in Phase B. So if you have a weak Phase A and you lose a lot of ground, you don't really have much to play with moving into Phase B, and that can be a big problem. But however, as you move into Phase C, of course you do get access to King Tigers. You also have plenty of Panthers and just lots of lovely tanks that the Germans engineered and have brought to the front line. Whereas in Phase A, for the 4th Armoured, they got the Hellcat straight away, which makes a big difference. Let's see what's actually going down though. On this top side, it is going to be Panzer Grenadiers for Capkaverne in the 251. For the town, it's going to be Panzerwerfer. There's also going to be a Panzer Grenadier or two heading into the town with some command. It's going to be followed up by a 251-21. This is a vehicle that we don't see very often, has like a tri-cannon on it, a Drillinger, and that has 18 HE, which is quite significant. There's also going to be some recon there and a Panzerwerfer to maybe lead the charge. One more Panzergren going to the bottom side. I'm pretty sure that Capkaverne has deployed all of the Panzergrens he has available in Phase A. So this is all of his infantry already coming out. So if this engagement in the middle of the town does not go well, he could put himself in a pretty tough spot in Phase A. There's not a single Puma on the map, and that means that this sort of armour, like the M8 Cavalry and the M8 Scott, could prove an issue. M1 gun has unloaded. We'll be able to take shots at the Kubel MG, which will inadvertently pin down the Pak-38. But we can see that the rifles have been pinned here, and there's potential for a surrender. However, the M20 command does get into position just in time. The 251-21, we didn't actually get to see it used since it did get popped by the M1 gun. But that rocket landed right on the M1 gun, so that is now dead. And these rocket strikes that Capkaverne have used have actually been very effective in forcing back Yoda's infantry early on. He has managed to not give away the fact that he doesn't have much on the top and bottom side either, which is really nice. This M8 Scott though will continue to be a problem. The M3 half-track maybe not so much, because the Pak-38 will likely be able to recover at some point. Infantry is going to continue to move forwards, however, and if it can find the M20 command and take that out, that'll be really good for Capkaverne. But Capkaverne needs to be careful. He needs to sort of make sure that his infantry does not get taken out too easily, because if he loses too many men in these squads, he puts himself in a very tough position. But taking out the M20 there allows him to pin down these rifles easily and possibly find a surrender. But yeah, keeping the men, or the number of men, high in these squads is very important. And currently something he's not done too bad with. Pak-38 just trying to clean up this M3 half-track as it retreats. It's taking plenty of shots, but not quite getting the job done. The main thing to do here with Capkaverne is just jump into this next building. That would auto-surrender these rifles, and then you'd be in a very, very good position. Those MGs certainly sound interesting, don't they? I haven't heard a half-track sound like that before. Either way, Panzer Grenadiers now engaging rifles on the top side. Half-tracks are going to be engaging each other. The 50 cal half-track does have the advantage. in that engagement. This Pak 38 still moving forwards regardless of a M8 Scott shot landing right next to it. It looks like these Panzergrens did eventually clean up one unit of rifles, the second one going down there. There is the M3A1 half-track here, which can drop off even more infantry. The M8 cavalry has dropped through. Pak 38 though may be in a position here to take that out. Last thing Capkaverne wants is his Panzerwerfer killed, so he's going to have to be a little bit careful. But either way, looks like the Panzer Grenadiers are going to be surrendered on the top side. The half-track here is being forced back as well. That might end up also surrendering to the 50 cal half-track, especially with the half-track being on a fast move there. Track wheel damage onto the M8 cavalry is going to be enough. Pak 38 should clean that up. And that gets rid of Yoda's threat in the mid. Oh, nice shot there by the Pak 38. Does kill off one of the M8 Scots. However, a Hellcat has arrived, and that should be able to engage a lot of this armoured support from range. Well, I say a lot of it. I mean, there's only 2 half-tracks and a Kubel left. It's more the infantry that Yoda's going to have to be careful of, although the M18 does clean up the Pak 38. Capkaverne, he is allowing these Panzer Grenadiers to lose a lot of men, and that is not a place you really want to be in. As these 30 cals reload and start firing again, I'm pretty sure those Panzer Grenadiers will be dead. There they go. The half-track has died there. M1 gun coming into play as well. Is coming under fire from a 2-star Kubel MG, and honestly, this Kubel MG might end up getting the kill here. Those things do have like the 600 meter range, so plenty of time to kill that off before it backs off. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the reload in time, so not this time around. Rifles on the bottom side are going to be killed. AT gun and so on are going to be continuing to move forwards after cleaning up the M8 cavalry. Half-track does get dealt with on this top side, but the Puma has now come in to finish things off. If Capkaverne can find the M3A1 and kill that, and then surrender the rifles as well, he'll be in a pretty good spot. The armoured LMG rifles, they run down the Pak 38. These Panzer Grenadiers, I don't know why they're not falling back. I feel like Capkaverne really can't afford to lose this much infantry early on. And with the command dying there, he's now lost both of his Panzer Grenadiers in the town in Phase A, and he doesn't have any left to reinforce, which is why you can't see any coming in. The M1 gun does get taken out there. The Panzerwerfer actually has a really good chance of killing the Hellcat if it hits it, because they are obviously low armor and they have an open top. So this Panzerwerfer, great chance of getting the job done there, but not quite. There is going to be an Opel Blitz munition coming in to help out. At the moment though, the only thing holding the town is this half-track, and if that half-track goes down, then Capkaverne is in trouble. Does manage to clean up those rifles, however, now just needs to find this half-track, take that out, and the +1 will remain in Capkaverne's favour for the time being. But Yoda is now bringing in the M4 Abrams, and with a few more rifles, Yoda should be able to push things back. Maybe at this point though, Yoda potentially is also pretty low on infantry in Phase A, because I don't see much extra coming in. There is one M3A1 half-track coming to the bottom side. That's going to be with the armoured LMG rifles. Other than that, it's just going to be these armoured LMG rifles remaining. There's a good chance that eventually, if this half-track just sits here, that it is going to die to these armoured LMG rifles, and it does. Fortunately for Capkaverne, the Kubel MG might be able to hold the ground. These Aufklärer actually managed to grenade one of the enemy half-tracks. That's quite nice. That Kubel MG really can't afford to die though. It needs to get out of the line of sight. It does retreat on its own, which is good. Saves Capkaverne a little bit of territory. New 251-21 coming in. Or Aufklärer, can they kill another half-track here? They do. Aufklärer actually go down. They trade for the half-track, but the half-track being dead there is really nice. So this half-track's making a bit of ground on the bottom side, which is why we can see 54% territory for Capkaverne. This Pak 38 going to be opening up onto the M3A1. If that could have found the kill there, that would have been really nice, because it would have deleted the armoured LMG rifles as well, most likely. But in this case, just the half-track dying, armoured LMG rifles get pinned down. Not really anything left to really take advantage of that. Aufklärer moving into the town here. They might be able to kill the armoured LMG rifles at close range, but with like a lack of numbers, it's probably pretty unlikely. The 251-21's got a lot of work to do. One thing that Capkaverne could do, however, is use the Aufklärer to spot the enemy infantry ahead of them, not actually fire with the Aufklärer, then use the 251-21 to engage, because that HE can seriously just rip things to shreds. You can see how quickly it does pin vehicles with armor. Imagine how quickly it would chew through infantry. And this Puma is quite simply just looking for the last remaining unit on the top side. Panzer, they are going to come under fire and get absolutely ripped to shreds. This Pak 38 could try and go into this tree line, but with the recon here, they'll be spotted as soon as they move in. And regardless of how close they are, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't even end up firing before Abrams took a shot from the Pak 38. Or the Pak 38 took a shot from Abrams. Right, the Hellcat has moved up here. Going to be taking a very close range shot onto the 251-21. This is a pretty risky move from Yoda, but I'm guessing he's assuming that he's taking care of the Pak 38, or at least he knows where it is. So that's pretty important. Pak 38, you can see it is going to turn, aim, try and fire, but it's just straight up dead. It's just gone. Panzer Grenadiers did end up taking out that Jeep and the Aufklärer, but they're also gone. And these aren't really losses that Capkaverne can afford to take. There's like 50 more seconds until phase B, and just look at the limited amount of forces that the Panzer Lehr has on the field right now. Puts him in such a bad position moving into the late game. I thought his infantry engagements initially were really great. Using the Panzerwerfer to pin the enemy forces and barely have to fight them was perfect. That's exactly what you want to do with the Panzer Lehr. But I feel like he then sacrificed a lot of infantry by not letting it fall back for starters, but also just not using the correct support. One strategy that I am aware of is the 6 Pak 38 strategy, where you take 2 cards of these Pak 38s in phase A, and the idea is that they make a lot of difference against enemy armor, so that your own armor can support your infantry, your limited amount of infantry. But in this case, we've only seen, I think, 2 Pak 38s. So I expect Capkaverne probably only has 1 card of them, but does manage to take out one of the armored LMG rifles there, which is quite nice. Is going to use up the rest of the missiles in doing so. But with the open blitz munition there, I expect this Panzerwerfer to be pretty key in this battle unless it gets taken out sometime soon. And if Yoda got aggressive, well, this battle really wouldn't last very long right now. Abrams could definitely push hard down on this bottom side. There's barely anything in his way. Hellcat, if it found and killed the Panzerwerfer, would be in a very good position. But this Pak 38, potential here for it to get the kill onto the Hellcat. The Hellcat's going to fire at the 232 and not the Pak 38, and the Pak 38 finds the kill. That is a very significant kill indeed. And the M3A1 also going down. Could be quite careless here from Yoda. He needs to get that off the road as soon as possible, because that's a 50 cal unit. You can't just waste those. And in this case, Capkaverne's going to pick up the kill. Now the half-track is going to have to retreat from this bottom side, but it has done its job in getting the Panzer Grenadiers to these buildings. Basically not allowing Yoda to reinforce these buildings is incredibly important, because Capkaverne's got to find himself a springboard to push off of. And that requires him being defensive initially, and then building up enough forces to push back. And that's what I mean by like the springboard. He needs to have the defense set up first, for example with these Panzer Grenadiers and these Pak 38s, and then he can build up the troops behind it to push again. Now there is a Pak 38 here, but it has been pinned down. 232 is going to get ammo storage hit. It is going to remain in line of sight as well. Fortunately, this half-track is kind of going to take the shot here for the 232, allowing it to get back and out of line of sight. But this Pak 38 is pretty key as well. That needs to get into a tree line. Just be a pain in the ass for Abrams. Surprised that Yoda's not just going for the attack on the Pak 38. You can see it's basically pinned down. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't just continue to engage that. There is obviously a possibility that Panzer Grenadiers pushing through this orchard, you wouldn't see them get Panzerfausted, so that's a reason not to fast move forwards. But just a little bit of recon there would be really nice. Now, one kill we did just miss was in the centre here. I'm not entirely sure where it occurred. It was amongst these buildings, but one health AT gun, or either this Puma, took out one of the M4A176 tanks, and that is a pretty significant kill indeed. Second Pak 38 has shown up here. Oh, the Panzer Grenadiers, they've got into range with the Panzerfaust onto the M3 half-track. They're going to be pinning down those armoured rifles. 2 Pak 38s engaging Abrams. This is really nice from Capkaverne. Just making sure that you reinforce an AT gun with another AT gun before it dies, so that you do have this advantage. It's very difficult for a tank to pin down 2 AT guns at once, and therefore, now that they've recovered, both of them firing is going to get the job done, and Abrams has been bailed out with side facing. The main problem I do see is that maybe Capkaverne will be unlucky and let him have a track wheel damage, which will allow the Abrams to move again. But not in this case. These men going to be doing a runner as they come under fire from the Panzer Grenadier, and Abrams has blown up. So, Pak 38's doing the job. Nice recovery from Capkaverne. It is a +2 still for Yoda, but with some significant kills like these, it definitely gives some potential for Capkaverne to come back in the late game. And he is using the Panzer Lehr, and it's one of the strongest late game divisions. So, you know, this is something that Yoda really needs to be careful of. I think there was definitely potential for Yoda to just outright win this game. But Capkaverne has stayed in it, has found the recovery in a couple of important kills onto Abrams and the M4A176, and that could completely change the landscape of this game. So in the mid here, 232 with the Puma, at close range, has the potential to take on the M4A176 and the M4A1 here quite well. On the bottom side, 232 did get its ammo for its 20mm taken out by the ammo storage hit, but that could quite simply just drive to the mid to pick up some more and then put some pressure on this bottom side. It's these double Pak 38 though that's going to be a real problem, because this half track will get killed off. The M8 doesn't really provide much threat, and there's no artillery at the moment that can really break through these AT guns, and considering how many units have been killed by AT guns so far, bringing in the things to counter AT guns right now would probably be the best choice, rather than reinforcing with more armour that, although you're playing against a Panzer Lehr, may not be the best choice. Got to kind of exploit the units that is currently on the ground. New M1 gun has arrived, however, and that may be what he needs to sort of kill off the Puma and the 232 and stuff. What's this Pak 38 firing at though? It has got line of sight onto the M4A176. 76 takes quick care of that Pak 38, not going to allow that one health AT gun to do its job. Here comes a Befell Tiger though, and this is where things start to get scary for Yoda, because if Capkaverne is allowed to build up some decent armour, the M4A176s and the Hellcats in the late game just really won't be enough, considering the amount of income that Capkaverne will be working with. Like, Capkaverne will be able to buy in a Tiger or a Panther every 2 minutes in Phase C, and that will eventually whittle down the amount of vehicles, and like armoured vehicles, that the 4th Armour can bring in. And these Panzer Grenadiers taking a beating. Again, keeping your infantry alive is incredibly important with the Panzer Lehr. You can't really afford to run across the open like this. It's very risky. 232, that's got no ammunition really. It's going to go down. M8 takes quick care of that. Pak 38 also went down. This M8 has quite simply destroyed this bottom side push. This Pak 38 is still in a pretty dodgy position, but it's not going to find line of sight onto the M8 anytime soon, so these Panzer Grenadiers should be falling back. This has been an issue with Capkaverne through both games, I think. It's just not retreating his infantry properly. And that will cost him into the late game when he runs out of infantry availability. After here, getting very, very aggressive up the main road. Are going to discover some infantry, but it's not particularly going to matter too much. +2 for Yoda at this point. Tiger is going to be rolling straight up into this town, supported by some Panzergrens. There is a lot of units here, though. Look at this: M1 gun, M4A1, M4A176. All of these units at close range have the potential to kill this armor and infantry combo. Like armored rifles, now that they're arriving, they're a problem, a pretty big problem, because they all have bazookas. So it's not going to be very simple for Capkaverne to push through this town, and focusing on it, I think possibly might be a mistake. Here goes the Panzerwerfer though. If this does enough work, then there could be potential for Capkaverne to make some ground. But it only hits one side of the town. There's an entire other side of the town that was not hit, and that's where the majority of the units are. So pretty unlucky. Capkaverne picked the wrong side. But does manage to surrender one unit of infantry in the mid. Panzergrens, they are 2-star Panzergrens. Pretty damn effective. But once again, these Panzer Grenadiers being chewed up in the open. Unnecessarily, in my opinion. When they have plenty of time to fall back here, rather than just take continuous HE fire from this M8. And that's not a little amount of HE either. You got 6 on the 30 cal, or on the 50 cal, 7 on the 30 cal, and 1 HE on the main gun. Weapon jam for this M8 Scott is pretty nice. Not entirely sure where that came from. 251-21, that's going to be trying to wreck some engineers on this top side. I would say one thing that is unfortunate about these 251-21s is their lack of accuracy, which means that they don't particularly hit very often, even though they have quite a lot of HE. When they have a little bit of veterancy with them and they're up close, they absolutely rip things to shreds. And we are seeing an M7 has been brought in. That's going to be aiming at the backside of the town and then afterwards at the Flak 36. This Pak 38 currently being chased down by recon on the bottom side. Panzergrens once again being chewed up. This is another squad of Panzer Grenadiers just standing there and taking the fire. Ooh, was that a bazooka shot? Nearly hit the Tiger? I was unlucky that Yoda didn't get the kill there. That's actually a 2-star bazooka. Well, crew wounded now for the Befeld Tiger, and the armoured rifles, thankfully for Capkaverne, have run out of ammunition, but the M4A176 hasn't, and the Tiger goes down, so does the half-track. Puma is now really the only thing in the middle here that can do the job. Can it get a shot onto the M4A176? No, it cannot. Well, it did, but it bounced, and the M4A1 finishes the job. That is a severe amount of losses there for Capkaverne, and I would sincerely hope that Yoda is ready to exploit that, because that is 240 points, plus the Puma's 100 points, plus the half-tracks like another 20 points. Panzer Grenadiers went down as well, so it's like a lot of points that was lost. Like about 400, just over 400 points. That is something that you can push off. So I kind of expect Yoda to be a bit aggressive here and try and get the job done. But either way, on this bottom side, MH just cleaned house. Recon killed off the Pak 38, so the bottom side's entirely clear as well. There's just so many units that have been killed, and I really just want to see Yoda try and exploit this. Double M7 on the field. He could kill anything he came up against that would be risky in terms of like an AT gun. And well, I guess maybe it's because we're now in Phase C, and there is 150 points per minute for Capkaverne, but he's just buying tanks at this point, right? And if you can get a bit of infantry forwards, then it's going to put you in a good spot. Panzerwerfer does hit just before the off map. The off map coming in from this Panzer IV. And this Panzer IV definitely has potential to do a lot of damage against M4s. We've seen these sort of off map Panzer IVs do work before, in that they use the off-map onto tanks, and then they advance onto said tank and try and get the kill. That's something that Capkaverne could definitely try and do here. Looks like this Opel Blitz munition coming under fire from the M7. Although both of the M7s are actually targeting the Panzer. It looked like a shot was almost going to go straight into the Opel Blitz, which would have been really bad. The Panther is on its way to the top side now, going to be accompanying the Puma and the 251-21 up there. Panzer IV pushing its way into the town. So, Yoda, what he needs to do is really just take care of these units up here, the Puma and the 251-21. Try and take a backseat from the Panther and push elsewhere. That Panther, though, clean first shot onto the M4A176. The Panzer IV does manage to get away from an engagement with an M4A1 Rhino and the M4A176. And look at this. Capkaverne still being aggressive regardless of the amount of units he's lost, and maybe that's what's putting off Yoda. This consistent aggression is actually pretty smart from Capkaverne, because it basically covers the fact that he's actually really far behind. Now that is an M5 gun, and it is going to take out the Puma before it gets pinned. But the 251-21 might be able to return the favour. The issue again at this range is accuracy. And with no veterancy there, that's a problem. +2 on the board for Yoda still. We can see that he has just gone over 2,000 points. So 80% of the way there. Panther still making pushes though. Does find the track will damage onto the M4A1. This Panther's actually in a very dangerous position because it's covering the reinforcing road into St. Mary-Église. And if Capkaverne can continue that being the case, then no reinforcements are going to come in here, and Capkaverne can maybe slowly but surely clean up a lot of these units in the town. But the M4A176 is going to take out the 251-21. These armoured rifles are out of bazooka shots, so they can't go and kill the Panther. It's a very awkward game, honestly. I think there was a lot of times when Capkaverne could have tried to preserve some of his infantry a bit better. And if he had, he wouldn't be in such a dire situation where he needs to push so aggressively with his tanks. But at the same time, if he wasn't pushing so aggressively with his tanks, I think Yoda would have taken full advantage of the game by now. So it's an interesting sort of position to be in. Panzer IV does find some armoured rifles there briefly, but this M4A176 will be looking for the close range engagement with the Panzer IV. It will out-aim it. As long as that's on an attack move, you can see it does aim very, very quickly. Track wheel damage will do the job. With the amount of morale damage, it is falling back, and the M4A176 should finish the job. It does indeed. Alpha coming into the town there with the Kubel MG. They're going to get absolutely ripped to shreds by the armoured rifles. And the Panzerwerfer more or less misses the mark. Hits a couple of half tracks, but that's about it. On the bottom side, Tiger has come in to accompany these Pioneers and the Alpha. It's going to quickly clean up the engineers there. And potentially push things back on the bottom side. B-26B has come in, starts to put pressure onto the Pioneers. And one thing that we can see is that the 4th Armoured is starting to suffer. We are into the latter phases of the game, and one thing that does happen with the 4th Armoured, if it gets to this point, is they just don't simply have the units to keep up with other divisions. They run out of availability these days. Maybe not in infantry so much, because they can get, I think, quite a lot of infantry, but more in just like the armour that helps hold things back. So Yoda is starting to struggle with the B-26B being purchased and shot down by this Focke-Wulf. That makes quite a big difference. Now an ME-109 G6R6 coming in to secure the Focke-Wulf as well. Somehow, Capkaverne's going to get himself back into this game. More infantry arriving now on the bottom side to accompany this Tiger in the push forwards. On the top side, the Befell Panther is assisting the Pioneers in making ground. And I think as long as Capkaverne continues to ignore the push into the town, there's potential here for Capkaverne to make a decent comeback. He does only have 12 minutes left, however, so it's going to be near a +3 needed at this point in order to win, which is quite a big ask. But we'll have to wait and see if Capkaverne can make much of this. He has found the Jeep 30 cal that was holding ground forwards on the bottom side, so taking that out would be very nice. Wow, the Jeep actually ended up killing the half-track at that range. That's impressive. Never really seen a Jeep pay off like that before. This Jeep going down here though, armoured rifles take care of that. Pioneers do come into the 100-metre range, however, going to blow that squad to smithereens. Not before, however, the bazooka takes out the half-track. ME-109 G6R6 takes the face for AA. M15 CGMC is now on the field, and there's plenty of 50 cals in the town as well. +1 you can see is not going to be enough at this point. But the Tiger, it finds a shot onto the M7. It's not good for Yoda. That puts this M7 in a very precarious position as well, because this Tiger can see either side of this tree line. That M7 has nowhere to go. Panzer ready to fire once again. Going to be trying to dislodge the M4A176. If it does, then the Tiger has a potential to get a kill here. Looks like all of those rockets kind of missed. Does manage to kill the half-track. Kubel MG going down in the town again. Pioneers end up taking out half-track as well. Yeah, the M4A1 sits solid. On the top side, M5 gun should be able to clean up the 251. Does do so. Also reveals its location in the process though, which will allow these Pioneers to come up and maybe take them out. Then the Panther can try and make some ground against this Hellcat. But this is what I feel Capkaverne should have been doing probably from the start of the game. Not really contesting the town too much. I like the way that he played around the town early on, but you saw as soon as the infantry evaporated, it just left him with nothing. Thankfully, Yoda wasn't too aggressive, so Capkaverne has been allowed to recover and is now making the right moves of putting pressure around the town rather than through the town. But there is now a time limit of 9 minutes and 35 seconds. And that is a problem that Capkaverne's going to have to very swiftly deal with. Bringing up some Pioneers here to push into his side of the town. Cleaning out these engineers would probably remove some of this territory on the top side, so that's quite a good idea. We can see, however, that the engineers have dropped their grenade. And just as my voice cracks, the Pioneers almost get blown to smithereens. The half-track goes down though, and the engineers get surrendered. It's just a very, very weird game. Focke-Wulf 190 does come over the AA, gets pinned down completely. Pioneers here, they do have a grenade, and if they can see the M4A1, they will aim and lob it at them. This M4A1 though is a very, very scary position for this Tiger. The Tiger could just get straight up flanked. Pioneers and Engineers trading grenades here. Pioneers go down to 3 health, Engineers down to 1. Oh, that Tiger, it's got time to aim. It internal fragments the M4A176. Oh, Yoda. How could you let this happen? There was such an opportunity there for the M4A1 to get the first shot, but I think what happened was when the Pioneers moved into this building, he didn't want to get it pinned down, but by moving it back, allowed the Tiger to get line of sight and get the shot in. I feel like that engagement should have ended the other way around. But we have a +1 for Capkaverne at the moment. 56% territory in his favour. Another Tiger is on the way. There's a Tiger obviously pushing the backside of this town with the Pioneers here. Is there too much more ground to be made though? Because this Hellcat has just cleaned up this half-track, which makes things difficult for these Pioneers to move forwards without being harassed. Focke-Wulf 190 going to be coming in with a strafing run onto the M7, although it doesn't really make much of a difference. P38 is going to probably end up taking down this Focke-Wulf actually. Yeah, well this P38 is definitely going to take out that ME-109. Yeah, and this P38 Lightning should take out this Focke-Wulf. So, well, that's Capkaverne's Air Force dealt with. You can't just keep sending your fighters into AA and expect a different result. It just is not going to happen. But either way, Befell Tiger going to get the shot into the M4A1 Rhino as it retreats from that engagement. Does get an internal fire, which means it can't really do too much for the time being, but does get out of line of sight. Hellcat going to come around behind the Tiger though. This is a smart move. Yoda gets the driver wounded. Oh, it's lucky that Tiger didn't hit. Well, it was unfortunate that the Hellcat didn't just get the straight up kill. Finds the second shot though, and that's job done. Nice job by Yoda, he's holding on. Hellcat going to be coming clean through there with another kill onto a half-track. Panzer taking a shot as well. These P-38 Lightnings could definitely help with strafing infantry at this point, since I believe the majority of Capkaverne's Air Force is dead. The Panzer Lehr don't get much, and I think we've probably seen all of the fighters he has. Panzer go down nonetheless, Recon spotting those all the way. Recon are now going to be found themselves by the Panzergrenführer, but with the help of the M5 gun and these half-tracks, that's a very dead Panzergrenführer. +2 though for Capkaverne, still not going to be enough. 6 minutes left on the clock. I think Capkaverne's just throwing everything he got forwards right now. But these AT guns on this top side are a real problem. This Panzerwerfer has got a lot of work to do. It needs to kill this M1 gun, this M5 gun, also this M5 gun that revealed itself as well. And I'm not sure it will be able to. Not without exposing itself possibly to the Hellcats or other things. But we'll see. It is going to go for the shot there onto the M5 gun. If he can get the kill. Pioneers are going to continue to move up with the help of the Panzergrenführer. Here goes that Panzerwerfer strike. Taking out at least one of these M5 guns will definitely give some breathing room to the Tigers and such. And yep, looks like 2 shots there. Direct on target, does the job. Tiger just controlling this bottom side. There is the M1 gun here. I might be able to get a nice side shot actually. If this M18 Hellcat comes out on the right side of this tree line, that M1 gun could probably find a side shot onto the Tiger. This is really smart though actually from Yoda. Yeah, use that M7 to target the Tiger. And if he can find that he does some morale damage by getting some shots behind it, then eventually he can force that engagement and maybe get a kill, which would be really, really smart. But Yoda's lack of aggression sort of in the early to mid game certainly left him in this position. I feel like Capkaverne's been given a very good opportunity to come back into this game that he probably didn't really deserve after his phase A and B play. Like, I feel like, again, losing a lot of the infantry without falling it back was quite a big mistake. But either way, something to improve on. Pioneers here, keeping those alive is pretty important at this point, as you do want something to reveal enemy infantry. But taking out the engineers is equally important. Pioneers on the top side, they're going to be pinned down. Hellcat should be able to drive onto them and kill them if the 50 cal doesn't. But this Hellcat I think is more concerned about taking care of the Panther that's just been bombed by that bomber. And that's obviously forcing the Panther to fall back, and therefore the Hellcat has a good opportunity to find the kill. But the Panther is swiftly recovering, so this may not go as well as Yoda would have hoped. But as long as Yoda doesn't cede a +3 at this point, he's got the game in the bag. Here comes another B-26B with a lovely bombing strike that's going to hit the 232, also the Tiger. The Tiger doesn't actually get completely pinned though. M8 Scott going to come out to play, try and find surrenders, but the Tiger's, like I said, it's fine. So poor M8 Scott might just be sacrificing itself, but the M8 Command has come around the corner. P-38 Lightning trying to do its best to pin the Tiger. Okay, it looks like the Tiger might get surrendered, or the Panzergrenführer has not been. Oh my. Okay, so everything's just falling back, but luckily for Capkaverne, the Panzergrenführer did not get hit by the bombing strikes. The Tiger E is good for now. The M8 Scott can't even fire, so it can't even keep the Tiger E pinned. It's just such a weird game. Either way, Pioneers, I think they put some pressure on System 1 gun and forced it back. There is now AA on the bottom side for Capkaverne. It's a little bit late though because there's not too much air left. Although Focke-Wulf does take advantage of one of the lightnings. VulcanHDG has arrived on the field. That will be able to clean up a few half tracks here and there, but not really too many large targets left. One thing that is good for Yoda though is that this Hellcat has just solidified that orchard on the top side. But pretty risky for the Panther to drive in there since that Hellcat would probably aim first. But 1 minute and 50 seconds left on the clock. Both players at this point must be working with the dregs of their divisions. I'm pretty sure Yoda probably has no infantry left. Capkaverne, I think, used up all his infantry when the Pioneers came in. Panzer is going to kill his own Aufklärer. Doesn't quite hit the mark there. But will force the M18 Hellcat and M7 in front of the Tiger E. So it's a smart Panzerwerfer strike. Just unfortunate that his Aufklärer didn't get out the way. That's going to clean up those two units and remove the, well, second to last Hellcat on the map. And one gun does open up onto the Panther. In the front armour, that Panther's not really going to do too much, but I think what Yoda's trying to do here, it's actually an M5 gun, and it is within 800 meter range, so that's actually going to do a lot of damage to a Panther. But yeah, what Yoda's trying to do, engage the Panther. If he doesn't kill it with the M5 gun, which he might, the Hellcat's right there to take advantage, so looks like the Hellcat's going to get a few shots off at close range. Whether or not he finds the kill remains to be seen, but probably won't affect the outcome of the game too much at this point, as things have been over for a while. When we identified that Capkaverne needed a +3, that needed to happen pretty soon. And I just don't think that Capkaverne has found and kept the ground long enough to obviously make a difference. So, either way, VulcanHDG coming under fire from the M5 gun can just bounce those shots in the front armour. Will take a little bit of morale damage. But this Hellcat, can it find the kill onto the Panther? Not sure it can. The Focke-Wulf 190 going to be covering it, but that's the end of the game nonetheless. Fell Panther stays alive. Full 40-minute game. Yoda is victorious. Gets 2,248 points on the board. Then kind of crumbles in the late game to the Panzer Lehr, which is to be expected, since the Panzer Lehr does have a very strong late game. But it wasn't quite enough. I don't think there was enough infantry preservation from Capkaverne for it to really work properly. And that's a very important part of playing a late game Panzer Lehr. There is early game Panzer Lehr where you bring in double Puma early and try and make a lot of ground off that, because it relies a lot less on infantry. But yeah, in this case, if you're going to go for the defensive early game, or even semi-aggressive early game, which I think he did by bringing in all of the Panzer Grenadiers and sort of trying to push with them, you gotta be careful that you don't let yourself get behind on the infantry availability, because it just does make the difference. And we saw it here. There was just no way that any of the tanks could push by the end without the risk of AT guns, and that really stopped Capkaverne in his tracks. There we go, kills M18 Hellcat at the start. It just about paid itself off, maybe. Armoured LMG rifles did a fantastic job in the town there, look at that. Abrams, not too great. Unfortunately couldn't capitalise on the bottom side due to a timely placement of some Panzer Grenadier from Capkaverne. But this M8, what an absolute champion that was. That was the one on the bottom side that cleaned up the majority of that push. Sorry about my voice today, guys. It's just it's going funny today. But a very amusing match for sure. M4A 176, that was nice. Took out the Pfeld Tiger at close range. These M4A 176s in these towns, very, very nice. Just any M4 in a town or at close range against other tanks is just beautiful to watch. It's like that snapshot aim time and boom, job done. Especially with relatively decent veterancy. M5 gun takes out Pumas, then another M4 taking out the Panzer IV, Hellcat takes out a Tiger. When a Hellcat takes out a Tiger, it pays itself off like more than twice over, so that's pretty nice kill there for a Hellcat. But yeah, in the end, kills went in favour of Capkaverne with the 3,615 there to 2,850 losses, but just the territory gain or territory loss in the early game was pretty savage, and just the losses in the early game onto his infantry made things very difficult. Panzer though stayed alive the entire game, got 3 AT gun kills, which is pretty nice. Pak 38s, the double Pak 38 on the bottom side was so smart from Capkaverne. I think he realised that as soon as he only had one there, he needed a second to sort of be there whilst the other Pak 38 was alive. A lot of people make the mistake of relying on a single AT gun in a location and then sort of replacing them one by one. But if you have two, then if one gets overwhelmed, there's still the second one as a threat, and that's exactly how he dealt with Abrams. So very nice. Befell Tiger, this did a lot of work. This was on the bottom side, killing off the M7 and the M18 Hellcat. Just chewed through like unit after unit, and when it gets to this point where you have the income to bring in lots of Tigers, lots of Panthers, something you can really take advantage of, and something that Capkaverne did with his armor play. But eventually, regardless of the kills, he couldn't be too aggressive with them because the ambushes from the AT guns, you know, M18s was sitting in the awkward positions for long enough, and that's just reliant on you having more infantry to push the tree lines and solidify those positions beforehand. That's it. That's where I'm going to leave it. An interesting game. Very weird game in places, when a lot of sort of interesting things happened with the fallback mechanics and morale. Congratulations to Yoda for winning both of the games, so that's going to put him up in the Code S of the European Steel Division League. But that's all. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.